Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Space News Pod, the show about SpaceX, NASA, and spaceflight. I'm your host, Will Weldon. And on this episode, we're going to be talking about SpaceX's Starship fourth test flight, IFT-4, if you will, from Boca Chica, Starbase, Texas, at the tip of Texas by the Rio Grande and right on the border of Mexico, is going to be an amazing launch. And also, there's some different things that they're going to be doing for this launch compared to IFT-1, IFT-2, and the IFT-3 Starship flights. And some of those things we don't really have the real reason for. One of the reasons, we'll get into this in a little bit, but I want to talk about what they're actually going to be doing first. And we're going to go through this on the Starship website, on the SpaceX website. Here we go. Starship's third test flight made tremendous strides. We're going to go back to Starship 3. Ship 3, we're going to go back in time here. Tremendous strides towards a future of rapidly reliable, reusable rockets, triple, quadruple Rs. The test completed several exciting firsts, including the first Starship reentry from space, the first ever opening and closing of Starship's payload door in space, and a successful propellant transfer demonstration. Now let's move forward. The fourth test flight turns our focus from achieving orbit to demonstrating the ability to return and reuse Starship and Super Heavy. Primary objectives will be executing a landing burn and soft splashdown in the Gulf of Mexico with the Super Heavy booster and achieving a controlled entry of Starship. So here they say there's no reason that they should be doing a soft landing of the Starship right now. They're going to do a controlled entry of Starship. And the Super Heavy booster landing in the Gulf of Mexico is pretty important. Some of these things that they're trying to accomplish for this fourth flight are absolutely necessary for Starship's HLS program for NASA and landing people on the moon. Landing this booster. Also, there's another reason. There's like a sort of a secret side mission, side quest that SpaceX is doing with this, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But the Super Heavy booster landed in the Gulf of Mexico. It's going to be on an imaginary Starship landing pad on an imaginary Mechazilla, if you will, in the Gulf of Mexico. And then they're going to have a controlled entry of Starship, which is impressive, right? How cool would it be if they could actually slow land the Super Heavy booster like it was being caught by the Mechazilla arms and then drop it into the Gulf of Mexico where it'll sink and not be recovered because it's deep in the Gulf of Mexico and there's no reason to recover it because they have better engines and a newer booster that they'll be flying after IFT-4. Now, they are almost ready. They're a few days away from flying IFT-4, so I thought I'd go over some of this stuff because it's going to be doing a similar trajectory as IFT-3. Starship is targeting a splashdown in the Indian Ocean again. The flight path does not require a deorbit burn for reentry, maximizing public safety while still providing the opportunity to meet our primary objective of a controlled Starship reentry. Now, Elon Musk has said that he wants this thing to be as hot as possible when it's coming back towards the Indian Ocean. Testing the heat tiles, testing the resilience of the Starship as it plummets its controlled way back down to Earth. This is SpaceX's next generation of Starship, or current generation of Starship. The next generation will be even better because they're going to be learning from Flight 4 here. And if they can complete these two tasks, if they can do a controlled re-entry of the Starship, and if they can land the booster in the Gulf of Mexico, Elon says he wants to have the booster land back on Mechazilla for Flight 5. I want to know in the comments down below if you think that's a good idea, because I'm not a SpaceX engineer, right? I am like you. I'm one of us, right? We are living in a time where this is a total possibility. SpaceX may land this thing on Mechazilla in a few months. And IFT-4 could be the precursor to that if this goes well. If this goes perfect, Elon says he wants to do it for IFT-5. I don't think it's a good idea. I really don't. I think they should wait for a few iterations of Starship. I think they should get 3 or 4 like soft landings in the Gulf of Mexico under their belt. I don't know why they would want to rush it. Don't destroy don't destroy Starbase. There's no reason to. I know it's going to be coming back in not so hot, but in the case that it does, what if it swings and destroys something? It's not easy to replace that stuff, is all I'm trying to say. The booster itself won't have a lot of fuel in it when it gets back down here, when it gets back down to Starbase. But the option of just waiting a few times and learning from every single flight, as opposed to doing it the single flight after, seems pretty dangerous. But I think Elon's a hype man too. So if you think about that, Elon is like the biggest hype man. And if Elon wants to do this and he wants everybody to be excited, because it's a cool flight for like the normal person. It's like, oh wow, this giant rocket's flying. That's cool. But it's like, cool, it's coming back in again. It's very similar to IFT3, what they wanted to do with IFT3. They would have done this with IFT3 if the booster would have landed properly in the Gulf of Mexico, soft landing. It would have been fine. That would have been fine. They could have moved on from there to do another test. But here they're like, we didn't really quite nail it on IFT3. So we're going to refocus. We're going to focus on just the things that we need to do. Incremental steps. Move forward when we can. And then when we can do that, we're going to move on to the Starbase touchdown, with Megazilla. Crazy. So the fourth flight of Starbase or Starship will aim to bring us closer to the rapidly reusable future on the horizon, et cetera, et cetera. Now, so what I was saying is Starship needs to land booster. It absolutely needs to land a booster for HLS. They need all the boosters they can get as quick as they can, rapidly reusable, so they can send fuel to orbit for Starship to refuel and then head to the moon for the HLS program. So this booster thing, absolutely important. Re-entry of a Starship, not as important for the HLS mission. And SpaceX has been focusing on HLS recently because this is a huge contract for them. They don't want to let NASA down. You wouldn't want to let NASA down either. So why are they doing re-entry though? What's the point of doing re-entry if your main objective is to get people back to the moon? Well, they have a few years to do that. And they have a thing called Starlink. Everybody that's watched Starship launch probably knows what Starlink is, right? It is SpaceX's cash cow. It's the way they're going to make money in the future. Their global rural internet is going to be huge for SpaceX. Absolutely massive. It's going to bring in the most amount of money of any program they have. And if they could rapidly reuse the booster in the ship, that's why they're doing this. It's capitalism, baby. They're doing it for the money. They're doing it for the green. They are a for-profit company. They are working with NASA to get people back to the moon, but they're doing it so they can use the Starship to launch a massive amount of Starlinks into orbit, which is a great thing because people in rural areas, like in the middle of nowhere, in the desert someplace, and there's no internet ever, Starlink can be a way for them to connect with the rest of humanity. That's what they want to do. They want to connect everything. But Starlink, bigger thing, Starlink on the moon, Starlink on Mars, huge thing. They're testing it here on Earth first. They're making sure it works. They'll send those satellites to deep space. They'll send them to Mars. They'll be freezing in orbit around Mars. And they will send internet to and from the surface of Mars, to and from the surface of the moon. And it'll be absolutely wild to see that happen. Laser Starlink, absolutely important for the future of space travel to the moon and to Mars. So getting, thousands of these Starlink satellites into orbit, absolutely paramount for the booster and for the ship to work properly. That's why they're doing this. And as you can see from this latest SpaceX update on their website, it's a very similar mission to IFT3. They launch, ascent means they're going up, they hit max Q. Hot staging here is where they separate. And then the booster does sort of a flip. Does like a 180, comes back down nose first, and then lands down, comes down nose first, flips over, and then lands in the water. water landing in a controlled environment without a Mechazilla, but in a precise place with the hover that they would be doing over Mechazilla, and of course the ship itself flying all the way to the reentry area, and then it's going to do a water landing too. But I don't think they really care that much about the water landing. They just want the reentry to work right. Water landing is like cherry on top, right? It's like you got whipped cream, or you got, you have your cake, and you're like, oh man, I just want something even a little bit sweeter. I want more sweets on my cake. I want that cherry. So that's what they're doing with the water landing. They're getting that cherry on top. Can they do it? Time will only tell, but landing flip, landing burn, and exciting landing, according to SpaceX, this is going to be a wild ride. I want to know what you think. And also, I want to ask you for a favor. Just a real quick favor. Hit the like, subscribe button. Super quick, super easy. Not for me, not for this channel. I mean, you could stay here if you want to. I would love you here. But it's going to start suggesting you. YouTube's going to start suggesting you more spaceflight channels that you don't even know about yet, or different spaceflight channels that you might not have checked out in a while. So, and you still like them. You forgot about them. I do that all the time. So if you hit the like and the subscribe button, and also leave a comment, that'll give you more access to other spaceflight channels in the future. So please, if you could just help me out a little bit there, that would be absolutely amazing, amazing, amazing. Now, what do you think of Elon being the hype man too? Do you think he hypes this stuff up too much? There's different ideas here, because if you don't have a hype man, no one's going to watch you. No one's going to really, you're going to work in secret. It's like, what's Blue Origin doing right now? Do you know what Blue Origin is doing? If you're not a hardcore spaceflight fan, you probably don't know what or even you probably don't even know what Blue Origin is, or you might have heard it like on Reddit or something, or on Twitter or something. I don't know. Or on the news, maybe. Do you watch the news still? Maybe. I mean, what's Blue Origin doing? We don't know, but Elon is the hype man, and he's hyping this thing up like it's unbelievable. And it's going to be an exciting time for IFT4, and IFT5 is going to build on IFT4. And I think IFT5 is going to be absolutely amazing too, but we don't know what's going to happen with IFT5, but I'm going to make a prediction. Let me make a prediction here for IFT5, since I believe IFT4 will go pretty well. I think what's going to happen, boost back burn. Of course, the booster didn't make it to the soft landing last time. They're going to learn from that. They're going to learn from that. And it might take an iteration or two before they actually do the soft water landing. Now, I want to believe in my heart of hearts that SpaceX will be able to do the boost back burn, the flip maneuver, get that thing back here into a very soft water landing with the booster in the Gulf of Mexico, and complete this mission 100% with the water landing of the Starship in the Indian Ocean. And then they can move on to the next step, the quest that they're on right now, which is rapid reusability of this massive rocket. Could they move on from this after this water landing, the soft water landing? I don't think they're going to do it in IFT4. I don't think they're going to. I'm going to predict, my prediction, I'm not a wizard or anything. I can't predict this for real, but we know how Elon and SpaceX iterate the rockets. This thing hasn't come close to a water landing yet. It disintegrated last one. IFT1 disintegrated. IFT2 disintegrated. IFT3 disintegrated. IFT4, it's going to get closer. I think it's going to do the flip, going to do the boost back burn. It's going to start descending. And I think something's going to happen on descent, because they haven't really gotten to that point yet. They haven't gotten to descent yet for the water landing. They've gotten there a little bit, but shortly after they did the flip and the boost back burn last time, the booster blew up. It disintegrated. It was gone. Shrapnel everywhere in the Gulf of Mexico. So they haven't really done the full super heavy descent. So what are they going to do? Are they going to land in the Gulf of Mexico? Is the hype man overhyping this so he can get people interested? Or is he just super optimistic because it's Elon Musk and that's how he is? He always is optimistic about the future. If you think about it, the things that he's building are going to bring people together, not only on Earth. They're already doing it on Earth. Tesla is bringing people together with their vehicles. There's kind of a cult-like following for Tesla. It's bringing all the other automakers together to build competitors for Tesla because Tesla was so good that they just kind of beat them at their own game and beat them at a different game that they didn't even know they were playing. And now Starship is doing this for all the other spaceflight companies, destroying, eating their lunch. ULA, they have a certain sort of skill set, ULA does, and Rocket Lab and all the other ones, they have certain skills that they're really great at, but SpaceX is going to devour them if Starship works perfectly. That's what they're hoping for IFT4. If they can get past this, they're already devouring the spaceflight industry. They've already destroyed it with all of the landings and the reusability of the rockets. It's a whole different game now. And if they can figure out this booster landing and they can successfully land in the next, I think, 3 tries of booster and ship, it's game over for everybody else. If it's done, nobody else can compete with that. ULA done. They do have contracts with NASA and the government for certain sort of flights, but everything else, Starship can do that. Rideshare, yes. Low Earth orbit, yes. Go to the moon, yes. Go to Mars, absolutely. Outer planets, yeah, let's go there too. Let's refuel. Let's refuel mid-flight, maybe. Let's refuel a lot before we take off. Might take a little while to get there, but they can make it to anywhere else in the solar system. Go to Saturn, man. How cool would it be if you saw a Starship around the rings of Saturn? I would be so pumped if one day we saw Saturn with a semi-live feed from Starship. I would probably cry. I would probably cry. I've seen Saturn through a telescope. And if we could see it in real time-ish with a Starship, it would change the way we do close astronomy in those planets. So instead of a government sending a probe like Voyager 1 and Voyager 2 out into the furthest depths of our solar system, SpaceX could do the same thing with Starship. We could learn so much because they could pack so many instruments in a Starship compared to these little, they're not little, but these, in comparison to Starship, they're tiny probes that we sent out. It was like the wonder of what we could do in the future with Starship it's just mind-bending because I can't even understand how much we're going to be able to do. It's not even invented yet what we're going to be able to do. The things that we've done in the last 50 years won't even exist when Starship flies to the outer solar system. And people have to invent new things to do. It's like, what are we going to send out there? We can't just send the old technology. We have to invent something really amazing. I mean, if they get these ships to fly rapidly, reusability is going to work very well, and they can send huge payloads anywhere in the solar system. This is going to it's going to change humanity in our understanding of our cosmos. We're going to understand more about our planets, more about our neighbor, the moon, our closest neighbor. Maybe send one of these things to the sun. Learn about the sun more. I mean, it might burn up, but on its way, it's got to get a lot of data, right? That's what I'm looking for. I'm hoping, because before we went to Pluto, right? Before we sent a probe to Pluto, it was just some boring ice rock, right? When we got there, though, with the probe, we saw that there's structures, and not made structures, but structures that were made by the solar system, that were made by space on Pluto due to collisions, due to just abrasion, wearing down of the thing. And it has little micro moons too. We didn't know that before. We didn't know all about it before. And now we can send a big ship, maybe with people, to Pluto, out there into the asteroid belt, maybe send some miners out there to drill some holes and get some really rare things, bring them back to Earth in the Starship. And then, of course, if it's gold or something like that, totally collapse the market and ruin everything on Earth. That's not a good idea. But you know what I'm saying? Like, we could go out there and we could do amazing things at the edge of our solar system that we couldn't even think about. We couldn't even imagine. It's sci-fi right now. It's sci-fi right now. But in the next 10 years, it's not going to be sci-fi. We'll be sending a Starship with probes, and we'll be sending possibly, I mean, I don't know when we'll be able to send people out that far, because that's pretty far away. Maybe 10, 15 years, we'll be able to send people to the outer reaches of the solar system once they figure out, like, because it takes a long time to get there, right? It takes a long time. It takes almost a year, with favorable conditions, to get to Mars. 6 to 9 months, something like that. So that just to Mars, that's pretty close. But going out to the asteroid belt would take a long time. How do you do that? You send a bunch of starships with equipment and supplies. You send one starship with supplies, food, water, everything else. Then you send a habitable starship with the people in it. They can dock, they can mate. That's another reason why they're figuring out the mating of a starship with the Dragon capsule, because in the future, and also the Orion capsule, because in the future, people will be docking with other starships, so they can, it's like a space station that flies together, out to the outer reaches of the solar system. Absolutely. It's paramount that they get this thing working. So we're here right at the beginning. This is the beginning. I was there for 420 for Ship 4 or Ship 20 Booster 4. I was there watching it being built. I was on the side of the road getting destroyed by the Texas heat. It's 110 degrees every day. Not fun, but it was awesome. I was excited about every single day I went down there to Starbase. I was down there about 100 days, and it was pretty cool. And it was the very beginning of this thing. I mean, of course, we have Hoppy, which is the very, very beginning of this thing. But I was there for the first stacking. It was so cool. It was so cool. So I saw that, and I'm going to stick around so I can see the rest of this mission, which is sending people into the solar system. And I hope you're enjoying this journey too, because SpaceX it is a for-profit company, but it's kind of for all of us, right? Because we watch this stuff go down and we're like, this is the future. We're going to make something cool. Humanity has a place to go. We're going further than we've ever gone before. We're going to places that we just thought weren't even possible to go to. We couldn't get to Mars with a Apollo program. We couldn't get to Mars. There's no way. We went to the moon. That's it. We didn't know how to get to Mars. The hardware wasn't there. The reason wasn't there. If we could send people to Mars on a Starship, NASA and SpaceX are going to work together to do that. They're going to figure it out. SpaceX may do a Mars flyby. I know Dear Moon is canceled, so there's no moon flyby for that. Jared Isaacman took that spot. So, yeah, and NASA has that spot too. So, MZ, it's a heartbreaker to see that mission go down and to see Tim Dodd lose his spot. But people are fickle, and money gets in the way of everything sometimes. But sometimes you don't have as much money as you thought you did. MZ was $3 billion, I believe, when he started Dear Moon, and now he's down to about $1.5 billion, which is still a lot of money, man. $1.5 billion. Why wouldn't you still do this? I don't know. His reasoning was weird. I thought this was weird. I want to talk about the Dear Moon project because I think it's a weird thing. The way that it was stated was just, it didn't make sense. Didn't make sense. Dear Moon was canceled because MZ said it was taking too long. So, and then you cancel it for everybody else too, right? You're like, I don't want to wait anymore. So what do you do? You just stop everything? You're impatient, so you're just like, I'm gonna stop. I don't think that's it. I think there's other things going on. I don't know if maybe there's other things going on. I think Elon unfollowed him on Twitter back in the day, like earlier this year. There were other things, that may be going on. That, of course, we got the political answer, which is, I don't know what else to do. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this anymore. And he could have just been silent and been like, I'm just going to not do it. I don't want to do this anymore. That would have been the right thing to do. To say, he did say it's taking too much time. And sometimes life changes, I can understand that. I recently became a dad. So I can understand where your priorities would change. And if my priority before was to go to the moon, I would think again. Like, I'd be like, man, I can't do that. What if something happens to me? I can't do that. It's like, it's not about me at that point. My ego isn't that big. It's not about me. It's about the little one. It's about the little guy. So I couldn't fly to the moon, even though I would love to. Until this gets as safe as flying across the country on a jet, there's no reason for me to go. I would love to go. I would absolutely love to go. I think it'd be so insanely cool. But the danger factor, MZ was just like, yo, I signed up for this in 2018. I was promised 2023 and I didn't get it. I don't know when this is going to happen. And my priorities are changing. Everything's changing. So I got to cancel it. And he didn't, he could have just backed out. He could have been like, you know what, guys, my life changed. It could be the money. If it's the money, I understand. But you still have 1.5 bill, right? That's a lot of money, dude. $1.5 billion. You still got money to go to the moon. But all the other people involved, they got shafted. They knew that there's a possibility it might not work, but they trusted this dude to take them to the moon, and he backed out. I admire him for the step forward, funding some of this stuff, giving money to SpaceX when they needed it for Starship development. Absolutely cool. But he's got a team of creative people that were willing to sacrifice everything possibly to go to the moon. And, and I don't want to make him feel guilty. And I don't think he should. I think he did the right thing. But I think there are certain times when you can just be like, look, it's not about me anymore. You guys go have fun. You guys go fly to the moon. I promised you something. I promised you a flight to the moon. And if it's about the money, cool. If it's about personal things with Elon, I get that too, but don't take it away from other people. Like Tim is devastated. Tim Dodd, the everyday astronaut, is devastated. He said he's mourning over it. He's going to take some time to mourn over it. I get it, Tim. I get it. Like I would be heartbroken too. You have to give yourself some time to figure out what to do next, because that's a huge thing. Like, you put everything into that. And if they take that away from you, he has a ton left to do, but that would have been a huge part of his life. One of the first commercial private astronauts to go around the moon. He would have been in the history books, right? Him and the crew would have been in the history books forever. If we still have books in the future, but it would have been human history. He would have made human history the first private citizens to fly around the moon. And that was taken away due to, I don't know what. And if MZ, if you're watching this, sorry, I'm ripping on you a little bit, but I don't want to be that guy either. And I totally understand. Life gets in the way sometimes. I just wish you would have thought about the other people and given them what they needed, because you promised them something and you took it away. I'm just going to be harsh with you. I'm going to be harsh with people. And if you can't, if that doesn't seem fair, I don't know. I don't think it's fair that he took it away either. I don't know. So anyway, I don't want to be negative about it either, because it's a freaking sweet mission. The Dear Moon mission. I was all on board. I would love for it to happen, but I don't want to be the negative guy and be like, MZ, stop it. You gotta go, man. You gotta give it to him. But that would be the right thing to do. If you have a $1.5 billion and I don't know what other investments or other ideas he has, and he's an artist, he can do it. Plus he's a person, so he can do whatever he wants to with whatever money he has or whatever. And I'm sure he spoke with everybody before he did this, so I'm sure everybody understood what was happening. And before they signed up, they knew it could possibly go away. So they understand, like everybody understands, so it's going to be hard for them, but everyone's going to move on and be like, hey, that was kind of a cool idea. Can't do it now, so let's just do other stuff. Cool. All right. That's what they got to do. So this went from IFT4 timeline to IFT5 to Dear Moon to MZ, snatching up this opportunity or taking the opportunity away from other people. I don't think it's all MZ, though. I think there's other things at stake here. I think there's other things, external forces possibly working on this. So, yes. Anyway, I'm going to end this now. Before we get too negative, Nancy here, I really hope they do a water landing. I really hope they do a water landing with the booster and with a ship. If they can complete this mission for IFT4, woo, baby, it's going to be amazing. And it's going to be the first flight that they complete both of their missions. One mission is the booster, one mission is the ship. Both land in their respective waters, and then they can move on to IFT5, where they could possibly land on the Mechazilla at Starbase, which is wild. Leave a comment about that, please. Please, please, please. And also like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, everybody. I appreciate you. Take care of yourselves and each other, and I'll see you in the next one.